let's quickly go over all the options. Clustered voids puts the empty spaces between sectors that you can see here, those gaps, puts them closer together. So you don't have all these individual holes, but you have larger holes between sectors. Shattered galaxy just reduces the overall amount of sectors and puts them further apart from each other. So you have those small channels which are like natural bottlenecks to defend. Clustered Xenon just puts the Xenon closer together. Instead of isolated Xenon sectors, you have those small pockets of them. Limited enclaves. Enclaves are sectors where factions only have one sector somewhere. So for example, let's deactivate. If we take they're not coming right now. Basically like this one here, it's an isolated split sector and you just reduce those when you tick limited enclaves. So the factions have a more coherent territory closer together and it makes it easier for them to build their industry basically. Extra system stats, this increases the amount of station slots that each sector has, the amount of population that can be in the outposts. This is mostly meant to be for smaller maps. When you play on small galaxy size, then it's recommended that you tick this. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend it because the game is not balanced for those higher system stats. And it also makes the game a bit easier. Space particles is those dust particles, the fog that's flying past your ship when you're moving. And some people like this, some people don't. It's just tied to the galaxy file, so you have to decide now whether you want to use them. I never use them because I find them too distracting, but the option is there. Then you have two options for a peaceful start and a chaotic start. And basically what's going on is the Xenon, which are the red faction, they are slowly expanding throughout the game. Sometimes they get stopped by a powerful faction, sometimes not. And if they eventually overwhelm the resistance, they will start to take over the map. And once a certain area of map has been conquered, so if, for example, if we take the chaotic start, then this system will have been progressed very far. So a large part of the galaxy is Xenon territory. And in 0 hour, the other factions will now sign a big alliance and fight them back. And this actually works pretty well, so it's not like the Xenon are likely to conquer the entire galaxy. It's very likely rather that the factions will succeed in pushing them back all the way to their portal sector where all the OCV ships spawn. So when you want to start at the stage where the Xenon are owning almost the entire galaxy and the factions are about to push them back, then you simply take the chaotic start. If you want to start at the point where this big war has already happened and the Xenon are very weak and take a few days before they can rebuild basically, then you take the peaceful start. This only leaves one Xenon sector. That's where everything started basically and the factions pushed them back. Then we have galaxy expansion level. This just sets how much space is already occupied by factions. You also got an origin start, which puts everyone with just one sector. I don't know how balanced this is with the latest 2.0 version of 0 hour, because the factions are claiming empty sectors much slower. So I might have to adjust this, but I rarely ever play this, so it's not. I'm not balancing the game for this one here. It might need further work. Early also leaves much empty space for the player to choose where to start your empire, but the default average is basically also enough. And if you want to make it a bit more restrictive, give yourself a few less places where you can start your empire, then you simply take advanced. Fog is another graphical feature. Certain sectors will have fog inside. And I also find this very distracting, so I always leave it off. But you can turn it on, and it should also be that the fog color matches the sector background. So 𝗔𝗱𝘅𝘆 built this so that it should work okay and look okay all the time. You can also influence how much systems every faction starts with. So if you want to get if you want to give a certain faction an advantage, you just type a number and then hit generate systems, and more sectors will be argon in this case. The galaxy size is also straightforward. Most people seem to prefer the large galaxy size. I actually recommend medium. Not that the large would not work. The game has the same mechanics and works well enough, but again, it's balanced for medium size really. Because in a large galaxy you have so many sectors and so much ground to cover that it can become quite grindy and cumbersome. And I always play on medium galaxy size. It also helps the game performance a bit. It seems it's not like the large galaxy would start to stutter or something, but certain scripts are running for hours on end to update everything. So medium size is recommended by me, but you can definitely play on large. The border gate density controls how many gate connections you have. So these white lines here, these represent a gate connection between sectors. If you tick this on low, then you just have less connections and more channel-like galaxy layout. So for example, there's no connection between these two sectors, and you only have this ring here. And this entire section is only connected through this entry. And if you take this sector, then you can basically wall off this entire area here. Very interesting. You can also change the map type to be less of a square and more stretched. System music files, I never play with the vanilla X3 music. I always have YouTube in the background and listen to some other tracks. So I don't care about this. Then you have race relations. On default, these are always set to be dynamic between all factions. So that means they can go to war, and then they will sign a truce again, and sometimes they will sign a non-aggression pact and will enter alliances with each other. These are called coalitions in the game. But you can change this. So for example, if you like the traditional feud between Boron and Split, you can set them as foes. So this means Split and Boron will be in a total war. They can never make peace, they always have to fight each other. And you can set Argon and Boron to be friends. This activates an alliance between them, which cannot be broken, and they will also share resources and make those two factions very powerful in general. And then you can also customize the map itself. So let's generate a new one. For example, shattered galaxy with clustered voids. And let's say, okay, you want to customize this map further. For one, you can modify the gate connections. So for example, you want to close off this entire area here. The only connection to the game world should be down here, this channel, and you don't want this connection. Then you just click the sector, double click it, it will open a new dialog, and here you can make modifications to that sector. And the gate connections are down here. So for example, if we don't want this west gate here, then we just deactivate it, and boom, it's gone. And now you have this very isolated pocket of space, which is only connected to via this channel here. For example, we can also deactivate this connection down here, and you can change the map like that. Then you can also, for example, if you want to start your empire here, you already know you want those sectors and you want to make it a bit easier for you, then you can boost the stats of those sectors. So for example, double the station support. which is the amount of factories that you can build there. So just hit crank up the support levels or the population, and it will save those stats for the game. Crank up your research rate if you want to make it easier for you. And then you can also set the location of the OCV portal, where all the nasty machines will be coming from. The game usually picks that Xenon sector which is furthest away from everything else. So in this example, it would likely be this one here. But you can also set a custom location. So for example, if you want to make it more interesting and want a game with a very central OCV gate, we could take this Argon sector here, change the owner to Xenon and set it as the 𝗚𝗹𝘅𝘆 portal location. And boom, this will make it so that the OCV portal will always be in this sector when you start a new game. And then of course it's completely random in which location the virus will expand. And this could make things very interesting. And if you cut a few more connections, for example, the gate connections between those sectors here, then suddenly there's no other way to cross from the northern half of the map to the southern half. You can only go past the area where the OCV is very strong. So this could be a very different game, but for your first game I recommend to just take a medium galaxy with default settings, so dynamic relations, and none of this ticked on, average expansion, and just generate systems, and save that galaxy and start to play it. This button up here is entirely new with 𝗖𝗋𝘅𝘆 2.0. Now you can randomize ship stats and weapon stats. Either everything, just make it all, apply a slight randomness to everything. So how much shields do ships have? How fast are they? How much do they cost? And also randomize the weapon stats. So all lasers, how much range do they have? How much damage? Or you can even buff or nerf certain factions. So for example, you want to make the Terrans even more powerful, then you can raise their ship stats further. Very cool feature. My map is going to be medium, and I don't want to see where all the factions are and how it looks, so I'm shoving this to the side and just generate systems blind. And then save this galaxy and set it active.